Here we are again, my friends, with the newest entry in one of the most famous movie franchises of all time hitting theaters in a couple of weeks. This time, in the case of Alien Romulus, we're going to take some time to look back at the 6 main Alien movies in the franchise. In case you're wondering, no, this is not counting the Alien vs. Predator movies, both of them. I'd review both of them if I had time, but if I'm being really honest, I don't really want to, and you guys don't want me to. But let's talk about the instant classic masterpiece from 1979 that started it all, Alien. This was directed by a relative newcomer at the time. His name's Ridley Scott. Some of you might have heard of him by this point. But joking aside, Ridley Scott had done a smaller movie in the build-up to actually signing on for Alien. This is really the movie that made him the household name that he is still to this day. And it's crazy even thinking about it. This November, he's got Gladiator 2 coming out. Like, that is insane. 45 years after the original Alien movie came out, you can still see a new movie made by the same director. That is wild. So the story, in case you've been living under a rock and don't know what Alien's about, takes place in deep space. And we follow the crew of the commercial starship Nostromo, and they're awakened from their cryosleep capsules very prematurely halfway through their journey home, and this is in order to investigate a distress call from an alien vessel. The terror really begins when the crew encounters a nest of eggs inside the alien ship, and an organism from inside an egg leaps out and attaches itself to one of the crew, causing him to fall into a coma, and this organism ends up growing into a beastly looking creature, which is still the greatest alien design in any movie, and it starts picking apart the crew one by one. Sometimes, you know, when you have a science fiction suspenseful horror movie like this, it's centered around an alien, it's a monster type movie. The key really is simplicity sometimes. I may sound like a broken record saying that, but Ridley Scott and this creative team behind Alien made this look easy. Ridley Scott's direction and his editing choices provides maximum suspense. Like, yes, you can absolutely compare this movie to Jaws, which I also think is a horror masterpiece. He doesn't really show you the monster until the very end of the movie. But even still, just with this ominous presence that's sort of lingering in the background and you don't know when it's going to come into play. Even on multiple rewatches, looking at Alien now, I was watching this movie with a bit of panic. Because I'm like, when does this thing pop out? And it's like, I know when it pops out. I've seen this movie multiple times, but even still, that is how you should build up horror in any movie. You should be paranoid about these scares. They really don't make movies like this anymore, do they? Not only does this movie create the maximum amount of tension possible, this world feels very lived in. The set design is absolutely marvelous. This is one of the coolest looking ships you'll ever see in a movie. And not to mention, yes, the actual look of this alien, nobody has ever been able to replicate it. Many movies that have tried to pay homage to this one have tried and failed many times over the years. But nothing really beats the look of this monster and the look of this ship. But there's something that feels very real about the situation. Again, I hate to compare this movie to Jaws, and I hate to keep doing that. But these characters all feel so well realized, and they all feel like real people. A lot of the dialogue that the crew shares with one another, it feels like a legitimate workplace. And everybody's roles are very well established. You have the captain, played by Tom Skerritt, who you might think is the hero for a good chunk of the movie. You have your scientists, you have your mechanics. Everybody has a reason for being on this mission. But then when stuff starts going down, and once the terror starts rising, yeah, even the captain is saying, look, I mean, we're desperate. We have to go against protocol. But there's one person who's always following the rules. Ripley, played by Sigourney Weaver, one of the coolest heroes, I think, in all of cinematic history. And it's never even really established until a lot deeper into this movie that Ripley is the protagonist. And that's what makes this movie so marvelous, is that it really does feel like an ensemble piece for the most part. Ripley is the one who abides by the book and is following the rules, but then once her crew members start going down, that's when she really has to step up to the plate. And just like this movie made Ridley Scott a household name as a director, this movie made Sigourney Weaver a household name as an actress, and she is excellent in the original Alien movie. Like, again, like, even just rewatching it after a handful of times, like, I know what happens. This is a damn impressive performance. It is so real. The world itself in Alien, albeit very surreal and very suspenseful, it feels very lived in and very grounded in reality. And that's what makes this so terrifying, because this is only about 10 years after humans walked on the moon, so it all feels like this could have been pretty feasible. And this brings me to perhaps the most surreal, iconic image of this movie, the alien popping out of the late John Hurt's chest. It is an absolutely iconic moment in all of cinema. Even people who've never seen Alien know what this scene is. And it is still so stomach-churning to watch. Like, it's terrorizing in and of its own right that these aliens are basically raping these humans, for lack of a better term. Like, I don't know what other word to use. Like, that's what's happening here, right? And the humans are essentially pregnant with these alien beings that are growing inside of them. And then when they're ready to hatch, so to speak, out of the egg, boop, they just pop out of the chest. Yucky. And I actually did read up that a good chunk of the ensemble didn't know what was going to happen in this scene. So those reactions had to have been as genuine as humanly possible. And I think that's a brilliant move on the director's part. So yeah, I'm sure this movie came out very fresh in the minds of people who saw Jaws 4 years earlier. And they probably saw a similar blueprint to this movie. But there is no denying that Alien is the epitome of what a science fiction horror movie should look like. And better yet, this is what a science fiction horror movie should feel like. Should always make you feel like you're on edge as the audience member. You don't know when this alien is going to attack our heroes next. The production design is off the charts, and you have a hero that is very easy to root for. And she will become easier to root for as we get deeper into the Alien franchise. Like, really, I could gush for a whole hour about Alien, but let's face it, everybody knows how amazing this movie is. It's one of the greatest science fiction movies of all time. I think it's certainly up there with the greatest of the great horror movies. I'm gonna give Alien an A+. And to think that Ridley Scott was just getting started. Like, I feel like if he just retired after he did Alien, like, that would have been totally fine. Actually, no. Maybe it wouldn't have been fine. Then we wouldn't have gotten that original Gladiator. But let me know what you think of Alien down in the comments section below. Is this your favorite science fiction movie of all time? If not, what is? I love discussing all new things in the cinematic world here on The Regular. Hit that subscribe button if you're new and tap that thumbs up if you haven't already. And stay tuned for more Alien reviews as we build up to Romulus in a couple weeks. Next up is Aliens. James Cameron's turn to tackle this material. And let's just say he made a very different movie that stands alone in and of itself. But guys, thank you again so much for your support. Y'all are the best. And with all that being said, Back Talk, commence.